Welcome to HardScript.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I came home to the sound of her laughter echoing through the living room. Not from her, but from her phone. The kind of laugh she used to save for me. Her iPhone was face down on the counter, screen still glowing. A message from Tyler. The name hit like static in my chest. I didn't need to open it. The preview said enough. A gym selfie. His hand on her waist. That stupid grin. Her words from last week replayed in my head. You want me? Earn it. I'd laughed then, thought it was just her usual fire. Now it sounded like a challenge she'd already decided I'd lose. I didn't say a word. I just walked past her half-empty Starbucks cup, the one she left on my desk every morning, pretending she still cared about the little rituals. My laptop was open. The code I'd been debugging felt suddenly irrelevant. Control only exists where it matters, and this wasn't one of those places anymore. She looked up when she heard the door. Hey, she said, like nothing had happened. Like Tyler wasn't in her texts. Like I was still supposed to play the quiet, steady guy she could always come back to. I didn't answer. I grabbed my hoodie, the one she always stole to sleep in, and stepped outside. The air was cold, sharp. My Ford F-150 sat under the streetlight, the only solid thing left in that moment. I didn't start the engine. I just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring at the porch light flicker behind her shadow in the window. I wasn't angry. That surprised me. It wasn't rage, it was something heavier, realization. This was no accident, no slip. She picked Tyler because she knew what he represented, noise. The kind of noise I spent years avoiding. She wanted a reaction, and silence was the only thing she wouldn't know how to fight. By the time she came outside, I was already backing out of the driveway. She shouted something. Maybe my name, maybe an excuse. The car door closed on all of it. I drove toward the city lights, past the 24-hour Walmart where we used to buy groceries at midnight, back when things were still easy. Her voice faded behind me. Some people burn bridges with gasoline. I just let them rot in the dark. The city looked different that night. Quieter, like it knew something I didn't. I pulled into an empty parking lot behind a closed Home Depot and just sat there, headlights cutting through the fog. My phone buzzed once. Her name flashed, then faded. I let it die out on its own. That was the first time I felt the silence work. Not as a shield, but as a weapon. Every message she sent was another swing at a wall that no longer existed. I wasn't behind it anymore. By morning, I'd moved my setup to my friend's place, an old studio above a mechanic shop. A small desk, 2 monitors, my MacBook, and the hum of servers in the background. It was enough. The noise of work was clean. Predictable. She hated that world, called it cold. Maybe she was right. But cold has structure. For 3 days, I didn't answer her calls. Not once. She kept posting on Instagram, all motivational quotes and gym selfies, like a digital scream for attention. Tyler showed up in the background of one, half smile, flexed arm, hand near her waist. The same pattern every time. I didn't react. I archived everything. I started running again. Early mornings, before sunrise. The streets were empty, the air sharp enough to cut through the thoughts that kept looping in my head. Every mile felt like deleting another file, fragments of the life I'd built around her. On the 5th night, I drove back to the house. Not to see her, not to talk. I just needed to see what silence had done. The porch light was off this time. Her car was still there. Through the window, I saw her sitting on the couch, scrolling her phone, still waiting for a reaction. My keys were still on the hook by the door. I could have walked in. Instead, I opened the mailbox and slid the spare key inside. Small, final, surgical. When I drove away, I didn't look back. I stopped for coffee at a Dunkin', just like I used to when life still had rhythm. The cashier smiled and asked how my morning was going. Quiet, I said. It wasn't a lie. It was the first morning in months that I felt like myself again. A week passed before she realized I wasn't coming back. I could tell by the tone of her messages. At first they were sharp, short bursts of pride trying to hide panic. Then they softened, stretched out into confusion. By day 8, she'd sent, "Are you still mad?" at 1 in the morning. I saw it pop up while I was debugging a network for a client. I didn't even pause my typing. Mad wasn't the word. Detached was closer. People assume silence is weakness, but they've never tried holding it. It's heavier than anger, sharper than revenge. You carry it in every heartbeat until it becomes your rhythm. That's what she didn't understand. She was trained to chase noise, applause, approval, reaction. The moment none came, she began to unravel. I watched from a distance, not physically, but digitally. Her stories shifted from bold to brittle. Tyler started fading from her posts too. That kind of attention burns fast. Eventually, you're left with ash and ring lights. My own world grew cleaner. I built a new system, automated everything: payments, schedules, client reports. Control became quiet efficiency. I started freelancing for a logistics company in Dallas, coding from the same studio above the shop. The mechanic downstairs, Ron, would bring me black coffee every morning. We barely spoke, but there was respect in that silence. Two men who fixed things without noise. Sometimes, when the night stretched too long, I'd drive to the edge of town, park the truck near an empty field, and just sit there. The stillness was almost surgical. I used to think closure came from conversation, but now I knew. It comes from absence. She called once from a blocked number. I didn't pick up, but the voicemail came through. Her voice was small, unsteady. She said she didn't mean for things to go that far. Then she asked if we could at least talk. I deleted it before she finished. There's a point where the past becomes background noise. You stop turning down the volume. You just stop hearing it. That night, I updated my status to available for new contracts. It felt symbolic, maybe even cliché, but it was the first time I'd chosen movement over reaction. And for the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It felt earned. 2 months passed before I saw her again. Not in person, just a flash of her face on someone's story. She was at a small local competition, some fitness event downtown. Tyler wasn't there. She looked thinner, tired, like the high had burned out. I scrolled past without stopping. My silence wasn't punishment anymore. It was distance. Controlled, intentional, absolute. Life had found a new rhythm. Work, gym, long drives, quiet mornings. I'd built a schedule that didn't leave room for ghosts. Ron downstairs asked once if I'd moved here because of a woman problem. I just nodded. He didn't ask again. My code projects were growing fast. Companies wanted quiet efficiency, and that's exactly what I gave them. Clean systems, no drama. I started consulting for a logistics firm in Houston. Remote, good money, better peace. The CEO called me a ghost operator. I liked that. It fit. One evening, I stopped at Target for some groceries. While waiting in line, I caught a glimpse of a familiar shape a few registers away. Her. Same ponytail, same restless tapping on her phone. She hadn't seen me. She looked lost, scanning messages that probably weren't coming. Tyler's name popped up on her screen for a second before she tilted it away. Even from that distance, I could see it. She'd been replaced by her own tactics. I left before she turned. There was no satisfaction, just confirmation. Silence works like gravity. It pulls everything into place, even if it takes time. That night, her message came again. "Can we talk?" Followed by another. "I miss how safe it felt with you." No apology. No ownership. Just nostalgia pretending to be remorse. I didn't block her. I didn't reply either. I archived it with the rest. Instead, I opened Netflix, put on some old documentary I wouldn't remember in the morning, and let the glow of the screen replace the sound of her voice in my head. Before bed, I backed up my files, locked my phone, and looked at the calendar. 2 months since I'd walked away. Silence wasn't the absence of love anymore. It was the proof that I'd survived it. The longer I stayed gone, the clearer everything became. Distance does something strange to memory. It cleans the edges, strips away excuses, leaves only what happened and what didn't. One night, while sorting through my old drives, I found a folder labeled us. Photos, videos, receipts from trips we never finished paying off. I should have deleted it. Instead, I opened one file at random. A short clip of her laughing in the passenger seat of the truck, feet on the dashboard, wind tearing through her hair. Back then, that sound felt like home. Now, it sounded like an echo of someone who never really existed. I didn't get sad, just analytical, like I was debugging an emotional system that had stopped functioning months ago. That's when I realized I wasn't healing, I was upgrading. The next morning, I bought a small condo on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, 1 bedroom, open kitchen, clean walls. The kind of place that doesn't hold ghosts. I spent a week moving in. No furniture from the old house, no shared memories. Just me, a new desk, and the quiet hum of my computer. She called again that Friday. This time, I picked up, not to talk, but to end it. Her voice cracked as soon as she heard mine. She said she'd made a mistake, that Tyler wasn't what she thought. I let her speak. I didn't interrupt. Silence on the line felt heavier than any argument could have been. When she asked if we could start over, I said, "You already did. Just not with me." Then I hung up. That was the last call. Weeks later, I heard she'd left town. A mutual friend mentioned she was training at a new gym, trying to reset. I wished her luck, quietly, to no one in particular. On Sunday, I drove out before sunrise. The road was empty, the world still half asleep. I stopped at Waffle House for breakfast, same booth I used to sit in before work. The waitress poured coffee without asking. "Rough week?" she said. I smiled. "No, just a clean one." It wasn't revenge. It wasn't victory. It was peace. Earned, quiet, and completely mine. By the third month, my silence had taken on a life of its own. It wasn't a decision anymore. It was a language. People responded to it differently. Clients called me dependable. Friends called me distant. Both were right. I'd learned how to exist without broadcasting every thought, without trying to be understood. One Friday, while checking emails at the condo, I noticed a message from an unknown sender. No subject line, no signature. Just 2 sentences. "I saw you at Target last month. You look different. Happier." I didn't need to check the address. The tone gave her away. She hadn't moved on. She'd just gone silent in a different way, waiting for me to break first. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my blinds, let the sunlight spill over the desk, and turned my attention to the code on screen. The project deadline was close, and I liked the weight of precision more than nostalgia. That evening, Ron knocked on my door. He handed me a beer and said the shop downstairs had landed a new client, a fleet owner, big money. He asked if I'd help set up a digital tracking system. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was solid. I said yes. We spent the weekend in the garage, music low, tools clattering, screens lighting up with data feeds. It was the first time in years I felt part of something simple and unspoken. Ron didn't care about my past. He only cared that the system worked. That felt clean. On Sunday night, I got another text, this one from Tyler. Just one line, "She's your problem again." Attached was a screenshot of her messages to him, pages of apologies and half-truths. I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's when the chaos that once consumed you starts to consume itself. I poured another coffee, opened a blank document, and began outlining my next freelance project. For the first time since she said, "Earn it," I realized I finally had. Not her approval, not her attention, just my own peace. And it didn't need an audience. It was around late spring when everything finally settled. The air had that clean, late evening smell, and for the first time in months, I wasn't counting the days since I'd left. They'd blurred into something else, routine, calm, almost freedom. Work was steady. Ron and I built out the tracking system for the fleet, and word spread fast. More companies called, offering contracts. The condo began to feel less like a place I'd escaped to and more like home. There were no pictures on the walls, no reminders. Just quiet, function, and light. One evening, after finishing a project, I went for a run through the neighborhood. Same path every night. Past a small park, through an old industrial area, back toward the main road. Halfway through, I saw her car. The same one, same plate, parked near the corner. She was sitting inside, phone in hand, looking like someone who hadn't slept. I slowed down but didn't stop. Our eyes met for maybe half a second through the windshield. She looked startled, maybe hopeful. I gave a small nod, polite, detached, and kept running. No words, no confrontation. That moment was the proof of everything I'd built. I didn't need to win. I'd already stopped playing. Later that night, she texted again. "I didn't come to cause trouble. I just wanted to see if you're okay." The irony almost made me smile. She wanted reassurance from the same man she'd broken to prove a point. I didn't answer. Instead, I deleted the thread, emptied the trash folder, and switched the phone to silent. At midnight, I sat on the balcony with a beer, looking at the street below. The city buzzed quietly. Cars, distant voices, a low hum of life that didn't need attention to exist. That's what I'd become. Not invisible, not cold, just untouchable. I realized then, silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. She tried to earn power through noise. I found mine in restraint. By the time I went to bed, her car was gone. The street was empty again. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was missing anything at all. A few weeks after that night, the silence became its own rhythm, steady, deliberate, and almost peaceful. The projects kept coming, each one bigger than the last. I was earning more than I ever had, but it wasn't about the money. It was about control. Every new task, every completed job, was a brick in a wall I'd built between who I was and who I'd become. One morning, Ron mentioned a new client, someone from a corporate chain that owned several gyms across the state. He said they needed an upgrade to their booking system. The name hit me the second he said it. Apex Fit. Her gym. The one where it all started. For a moment, I thought about declining. But then I realized, this was what full control looked like. No emotion, no avoidance. Just business. So I took the job. 2 days later, I was in their downtown office, setting up a secure server connection. It was clean, efficient work. I didn't see her, didn't expect to. But when I left the building, she was outside, same gray hoodie, hair tied back, holding a protein shake like a prop. She froze when she saw me. She said something I didn't fully catch, something about fate or timing. I just nodded, polite, like two former coworkers crossing paths. The power shift was instant. She wanted closure. I'd already closed the file. That night, she sent a message. I finally understand what you meant about silence. Then another, a few hours later. You were right. It's louder than anything. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I went for a drive, same route I'd taken the night I left her. Past the old house, past the Walmart we used to shop at, until I hit the outskirts, open road, empty fields, a sky wide enough to drown in. I pulled over, turned off the engine, and just listened. No music, no phone, just wind. In that stillness, I realized something simple. The version of me she tried to break was gone. The quiet had rebuilt him, stronger, sharper, unshakable. And for the first time, I didn't need her to know that. By summer, the silence had become my armor. It wasn't heavy anymore. It fit perfectly, like something custom-made. Every trace of the old life had dissolved into a routine that finally made sense. Early mornings, long hours of coding, late-night drives when the city lights blurred into static. No drama, no noise, just precision. One night, after finishing a system test, I checked my phone. A message sat unread for almost a day. Her name again. I heard you're doing work for Apex Fit. I hope it's going well. The kind of text meant to sound casual, but built to bait a response. I didn't give her one. Instead, I poured a drink, leaned back, and looked at the half-empty apartment around me. I liked it that way. No clutter, no trace of what came before. Everything in its place, every sound deliberate. But there was one thing I hadn't expected. The quiet drew people in. Clients, colleagues, even strangers. They mistook it for mystery, not realizing it was just clarity. A week later, Apex Fit's director invited me to a conference in Dallas to discuss long-term collaboration. I went. It was clean business. Numbers, systems, structure. During a break, I saw her across the room. She wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't part of management anymore. Someone said she'd switched to freelance training. She looked different this time. Calmer, smaller somehow. She saw me but didn't approach. Maybe she understood. Maybe she finally saw what silence had built. After the conference, I walked out to the parking lot. The sun was setting, washing the cars in orange light. My truck was right where I'd left it. As I opened the door, I heard her voice behind me. Soft, almost careful. She said she didn't blame me for leaving. That she finally saw how much noise she'd made trying to feel seen. She wanted to thank me for the silence, for forcing her to hear herself. I turned, nodded once, and said the only thing that mattered. Take care. Then I got in the car and drove off. No anger, no relief. Just stillness. The kind that comes when the past stops chasing you, because it finally knows it can't reach you anymore. The drive back from Dallas felt different. Lighter somehow. The road stretched for miles under a fading sky, and every mile felt like a full stop at the end of a long sentence. I didn't play music. Didn't need to. The hum of the engine and the rhythm of the tires were enough. I thought about what she'd said in the parking lot. The words weren't an apology, they were an acknowledgement. For her, that was progress. For me, It was closure I didn't even need anymore. By the time I reached home, the city was quiet. I parked the truck, locked the doors, and took the stairs up to my apartment. Inside, everything was exactly where I left it, ordered, calm mind. No half-empty cups, no notifications lighting up the dark, just stillness. I made coffee, sat by the window, and opened my laptop. The reflection in the glass looked older, sharper, but finally honest. The man staring back wasn't the one who begged to be understood. He was the one who built understanding out of silence. My inbox was full, new clients, new contracts, people wanting what I had learned to live by. Control, clarity, quiet efficiency. It was strange how the world chases noise, but pays best for silence. At 1:03 a.m., my phone buzzed once. Her name again. Are you still mad? The same line from months ago, almost like a ghost repeating its last breath. I watched the screen fade to black. No anger, no sadness, just understanding. Some people never stop testing the temperature of the fire they started. I didn't block her. I didn't delete the thread. I just turned the phone over, face down on the table, and let the quiet answer for me. Outside, the city slept. Somewhere, a streetlight flickered. Somewhere else, maybe she waited for a reply that would never come. I finished my coffee, closed the laptop, and stood up. The silence wasn't just an ending anymore. It was a foundation. She once said, "You want me? Earn it." I did, just not the way she meant. What I earned was peace, and I didn't need anyone's permission to keep it. Real men don't explode. They exit. Subscribe for more power stories.